So thank you all for coming. We're going to get started on the stream in a second. Just want to remind people that it is Pudding Week, and if you want to show your solidarity with Pudding Week, you can add a pudding emoji to your name in our Discord, and also spam pudding emojis in the chat in Twitch. But don't go too crazy. I want to actually read the questions there. All right, so last week we were going into simple Asaro heads. And this week we are going to actually go into something called a Riley method head, or Riley abstraction. And that is this puppy here over on the reference window. So don't be intimidated by this. This is an extremely versatile and flexible tool. The other stuff that you should have been practicing up to this point will help you digest this. And this thing actually is a lot easier than you think it is to understand. The reason why it's easy to understand it is because it works on a system of rhythms, almost kind of like rhyme. So it's easier to memorize, and it's easier to kind of feel out through. You can also practice it by not doing the whole thing at once, by doing like parts of it in quick sketch, in like little 1 minute, 30-second drawings and stuff, or like 5 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute sketches and stuff. But you can also really, really slow down and do like more worked up finished drawings and stuff, and practice it like for an hour or a couple hours. But yeah, Riley method is a approach to drawing created by Frank Riley, who was an early 20th century illustrator and draftsman, who trained a lot of artists in like a new kind of really like almost kind of mechanized style to break down and simplify the things that they would need to construct a figure or a face. And as a preview, when we get into figure drawing, we're going to be getting more into figure drawing in the future. During like my next planned semester for this stuff. This is a preview of the Riley method for the body right here. Some more of its application over there. I just wanted to share some of that. So this looks really, really dry, doesn't it? Like, how do you use this? Well, a good example. I think this is from Proco, but I'm not sure. But these are excellent examples of an application of the Riley method. That somebody who's really, really accomplished. You don't have to go this crazy, accurately detailed and stuff at this stage. You're just trying to learn this and like digest it. But this is somebody you could potentially practice from. Also, in this case, this is showing off how you can bend the Riley method. Like a child's, you can bend it to fit the type of a child's face, or an old man, or kind of an average square-jawed person, basically. You can also use it for caricature and character design and stuff, like this Bill Nye caricature here. This caricature of somebody the artist knew, and Putin up there. Oops, sorry. So how do you study it? Well, there's a lot of ways you can study it. First of all, you can start with like reacquainting yourself with the Loomis head if you're already familiar with it. But the Loomis head can be used as a starting point for doing the Riley method. And you also can use the abstractions we were doing with the simple Asaro head last week. And you'll also keep in mind like how the skull works. Like all the stuff we've been doing up to now has been building up to this. The thing is, like, you don't necessarily need all that to jump right into this. You can jump right into this, but it'll help you a lot more if you go back and look at the previous lessons that are recorded up on my YouTube that will give you some grounding of what to do with this. And so other ways you can practice it is you can take photographs, preferably well-lit photographs that have no photo retouching on them, and so no distortions or anything. Like old Hollywood celebrity photographs work really well. Like even like this headshot of Bruce Willis up there. That's not that old, but there's no distortion going on in that picture. But you can practice these rhythms and abstractions by drawing on top of photographs to like get them into your bloodstream and like think about them. Now the way you can practice is, here I'll show my drawing thing real quick. I'll show you how I was warming up for this class today. So let's see here. There we go. So on my drawing tablet, I was doing stuff like this. This is a copy study of an existing Riley method head that I was trying to kind of like digest. This is an invented Riley method head. I kind of messed up a few things. The skull is placed a little bit off, but I'm like starting to digest it. These are a couple more copy studies of existing Riley heads. This is an invented head. Down here, a few of these head drawings that I did a couple months ago of animals and creatures and stuff, anthropomorphic animals and creatures and stuff. These use Riley method a little bit. This one especially, it's using Riley method rhythms on like a dog's head, basically, for that character. There's also these, which I did very quickly before class to partly to warm up. You notice like these use the rhythms that I was showing off, but I'm not too concerned about getting them completely accurate. I'm trying to like get them somewhere in the ballpark and I'm trying to play with them. I'm messing with like face type. Some of these are pseudo copies from a sheet that I had nearby me of a bunch of heads like these. But I was also trying to like do my own thing here and there. Like that one I think is completely invented. There's a few of them in here that are completely invented. That one's completely invented right there. And if you notice on this one, I used the abstraction that we had on like the early Loomis head structure things that we were doing for the structure of that, and I think some of the skull in there. It's like I'm kind of building on what we're learning here too. This was like the first thing I did today. That was like my warm up. But I think this one is probably the most successful so far, but it still has problems. There's still some confidence in my memorization going on. So we're going to be doing some more of these. I'll do some demos of these, and I also want you to get a hold of some of the kind of reference that I have here and practice it yourselves. I'll try to see if I can maybe export these here. 1 second. Export all images. Alright, so I'm exporting all the images that I have on that page. I'll find some way to maybe upload and share them. But I'm going to share some of the key ones in the Discord chat right now. So we'll do that real quick and then we'll get started on some demos. So first off, I'm going to share the basic Riley head in Discord chat. The basic Riley head abstraction guide. I will share this one because it's like a high-level execution of the Riley method, and also shows off. Here, better show this on stream too. This one shows off really nice execution of the Riley method, and also shows off like how this person was thinking about like the space in between the different rhythms to mass out the face and stuff with those circles that they did. It's another way to approach it. So, what I should probably explain what the purpose of the Riley method is. The purpose of it is it's like abstracting like we're starting to get now into like the muscle and the flesh on the face, in addition to the structure of the face right now. These things are extremely complex, so we need a kind of a roadmap or like a GPS guide to sort of like simplify and reorient ourselves when we're looking at like this complex thing and trying to break it down. So mind you, these are not. The Riley method is something you should internalize and memorize and practice, but it's not a hard and fast, like you always have to do it this way tool to use. You're supposed to use it maybe in conjunction with other things or take bits and pieces of it that are useful to you here and there. Practice it so of course you can tune it up and stuff. You might adapt it or some of its ideas for something else. If you're an animator, you're probably not going to be drawing like fully complex Riley heads every single time you like draw frame animation. You're going to be doing some kind of really simplified head or something, but it might have like one or two Riley method rhythms in it, or your mental map of how the Riley method works can help you find landmarks on a face of a character you're animating, for example, just from having practiced this. So I'm kind of like freestyling right now, using some of what I was practicing earlier as an example. Like you can just play with this. You can distort it and warp it. You can start playing with like seeing how the jaw would hinge and open and stuff with different expressions and stuff. We're not going to get into expressions too much, but if I find something worth breaking down for facial expressions today, we might play with that a bit. Facial expressions almost kind of deserve their own class, to be honest, and those are good to get into after you've kind of wrapped your head around features. Features will be something we might save for next semester. Next week we're going to be studying the complex Asaro head, which is this one here, which I've already acquainted you folks here to before, but here's the Asaro head. There he is. You can buy physical versions of this, and we'll be using a online 3D model of this to study from next week, and photographs that people have generously taken and posted online. But this thing you can find your way around it using the Riley methods the Riley method rhythms that we're using. But you want to be a little bit more analytical about what you're doing when you study from this initially, at least initially, because it's worth internalizing this. But the Riley method, you have a little bit more space to play with it. But I think the best way to study it is to do slow studies like these, drawing over photographs, trying to copy it, trying to like understand what rhythm connects to what. Like you'll start observing stuff like, oh, this line connects through here, comes by this eye, comes by the side of the nose, goes all the way down to the jaw, like there, on how the roadmap goes and stuff like that. You'll notice how the connection that goes around to the curve of the jaw works, and how this one works, and looping around the corner of the mouth, and so on. You'll kind of start to learn where you place the eye orbits before you even add in like the nose, or before you add in like the eyelids or whatever. You'll start kind of using it to wrap your head around the shape of the nose a bit more. You're supposed to kind of just like use this as kind of like an orientating tool, basically. One of the big things you'll take away from this is like how the muzzle of the face kind of works, with that fleshy mass in front, with the lips wrap over, and you have like kind of this dog muzzle effect going on a human face, because we are animals. I have like these two circles that one of them kind of wraps up over the top of the nose like this, and the other one is a little bit smaller and goes like kind of around the lips, around there ish. I'm not too worried about making this terribly accurate. It was a quickie sketch, but there's other stuff you can take away from this, like that little anchor point in the top of the brow right there, that little wedge right there. The kind of like potato ice cream sandwich sort of mass of the head that has lines wrapping over it. You can play with these all you want. You can play with like all these rhythms all you want. You can integrate them with what you've studied in Loomis and what you might have studied with the Sorrow and everything else. Even like the Steve Houston stuff I touched on, the sailboat heads, like that. You should be free to. You should try to memorize and internalize this, and be free. Then like feel free to play with it. Do a mix like of rigorous study and play, because you want to like get it into your bloodstream. So the reason why this kind of rhythm method is such a powerful tool is because it kind of works the same way rhyming songs do. Like rhyming songs and poems make them a lot easier to memorize. Like that's why like skalds and bards of yore would have rhymes for the stories they would tell, and that turned into songs, because then they could remember the stories to keep telling them over and over again easier. And that's the same kind of thing going on here. Like you use these rhythms as like a tool of finding the rhymes in the face to kind of remember what's what and so on. And when you're kind of freely sketching like I'm doing, you don't have to be perfect about it. You just kind of test what you remember a bit, and you maybe go back and glance at some reference nearby, try a cheat sheet, test things out and so on. Yeah, there are people who are really super. Joe Jora 881 said in Twitch chat. Oh, actually, I forgot to turn off the Discord stream. Okay, there's 38 people watching my Discord stream. Please go to my Twitch. I'm going to be shutting down the Discord stream right now. So everyone, please go over there, and because we're going to be doing the class there. If you don't like how the audio syncs, you can mute the audio for the Twitch and listen to me here in the Discord, or vice versa. But you can ask questions in text in the Discord or in the Twitch. So, I'm going to show off some of the reference I found and say a few things about some of this stuff. Here, let me make the reference the focus here. There we go. All right, so the homework I'm going to have you do this week is going to be 1 to 3 pages of studies like these over photos, like that, and so on, using the Riley method rhythms and stuff. Maybe even try to measure. I'm not necessarily going to worry about too much about measuring it out, but you can use these images that I have here as a guideline for like anchoring yourself. You can measure these out if you want, but you can also try to eyeball it if you like. It's up to you. I'm going to have you do 1 to 3 pages of like Riley method freehands. Those like kind of like you fill up a page of circles, basically. It's kind of like what I did for my part of my warm-ups. You fill up a page of circles, and then you do like Riley method quick sketches. You do Riley method quick sketches of like just like kind of riffing with it, like just using bits and chunks of the Riley method and stuff. That would be 1 to 3 pages. You can do those at any pace you like. I would go back and forth between doing those and doing the more like cumbersome, slower studies. And the other thing I want you to do is I want you to do a well executed, as best as you can, full turnaround of the Riley head. That means front, profile, 3/4 view. If you can find reference for it, you can also do back and back 3/4 view. But the front, profile, and 3/4 views are the ones that I want you to mainly execute. Now, for that one's got an asterisk on it, because I want you to do and redo that assignment, because it's going to take you several tries to do it right, and you're going to do better versions of it the more you keep redoing it. So keep trying to redo it, keep trying to fix your errors, and I mean, it's going to take a little while to digest, but it's so worth it. You're going to like this method when you start getting into it, because you start finding the flow of these faces. This method is like really revelatory for a lot of the people who try it for the first time and start really taking it seriously. Yeah, some other examples of stuff I found that show off the power of the Riley method. Like this started off like with a very Loomisy head abstraction kind of, but they measured out like where the placement of everything was and stuff, and then they added like these Riley rhythms to the face. You see, and it's not exactly the if you notice, it's not exactly how the Riley method like cheat sheet guide is. They kind of bowed it out where it's fleshy and stuff like that. They played with it to distort it to the person's features a little bit more, or a portraiture, caricature of the person's face, so very slightly. It made it feel more like it has more mass to it than the real person would. There's a huge page of like that and more stuff like this right here. Like they start with the Riley method. They start with the Riley method. They start with the Riley method. They start with the Riley method before they move on. And if you execute these extremely well, this becomes so much easier. Because this has like the mapping and the mass and the 3D forms basically in kind of a wireframe wire sculpt to show you where you need to show you where like planes and surfaces turn and everything. Like it's all there. So then it just becomes about value control and refining it. This one is pretty worked up. But yeah, same thing, Riley method over and over again. There's a pretty cool page. This one shows a more like not dead-eyed looking Riley method ahead right here. This one's a little bit more lifelike than the basic Frank Riley head. It's right here. You can see like as people like masters who have like done a lot of observing and playing with this thing can inject a lot more life into it. It's even used in this, as you can see. But yeah, this should be something that you should be able to have fun with, and it will start to feel good because you'll have like familiar things to hook yourself into. You can follow a procedure for it, or you can try to like find where you want to start with, whatever feels good to start with on the Riley heads that you do. Like you usually start with the big things, but you can break it down however you want. Like here, let me maybe find something that might be useful here. So let me do a quick draw demo of this. I'll try to maybe put some relevant reference on screen for people to see. Whoops. So we'll maybe do, actually we'll do a profile to start with. Profile is probably the easiest one to do, followed by 3/4, and the straight on one is actually the hardest to do, because it has to be so symmetrical. Someone asked, do the photo references have to be actual photographs, or they can be from animated films or TV shows? They can be if they are a face that you could conceivably break down into Riley method. Depends on the show. Like, I'd really have to think about that. I mean, like if you're talking about like Satoshi Kon movies, definitely. Like, or Akira, the anime Akira, of course, the movie. But yeah, Satoshi Kon's films, you can probably break down their faces with Riley method rhythms if you wanted to. Katsushiro Otomo's art and stuff. You kind of have to exercise a judgment call on that. I don't know if some Disney you could probably do it with, like the more realistic characters, but generally not Disney, because they use a different approach for the classic Disney character heads, but there are some exceptions. I think there's some Riley rhythms in there's Riley methods in Bell in and they actually go into them. There's there's a direct-to-VHS Beauty and the Beast 2 or whatever, but when they did it, they basically for the animators, they broke down her head and her model into Riley method rhythms. See? I don't know if they did this for the Beauty and the Beast movie, but I imagine they did. But they had a system basically for her head construction. They did this. They did some of this with Beast too. But yeah, I mean, she's a good example. There's Riley method stuff going on there. Also some Loomis stuff, I think. I may actually break her out to do some studies from her, draw over studies from this. Let's yoink her actually onto that reference page I had. Or I'll keep it just handy so I can yoink it later. Alright, so I'm going to do a profile demo as best I'm able to. Keep in mind, I'm still practicing this stuff too. Like, these classes I teach are basically glorified group study sessions. On that note, maybe I should do a quick plug. I actually made my last goal of a backup hard drive, and I'm ordering a 6 terabyte backup hard drive with the money that people donate to me. My new goal is an Adobe Creative Cloud prepaid subscription. I have a reseller that I'm buying a prepaid key from, so I can use Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, Adobe Animate, and Flash again. So every little bit helps. I'll post the link to this in both chats, Discord and Twitch. Any little bit you're able to give will help, and as well giving me subs or bits through Twitch. But anyway, we're going to get on with the demo now, so let's get started. Right, so... before we do go further, there is one other thing. Sketchfab. I had a great collection of Sketchfabs that I posted in classroom announcements, and I'll share it here on stream real quick. We're going to be using this as a study tool tonight too. But you see, I've collected a lot of things that we've studied previously and so on in here. And I also found that this lovely person has been kind enough to create a 3D wire model, basically, of a Riley head. You can spin around from any angle. There it is right there, folks. If you want to practice this and memorize Riley method rhythms, this is an excellent tool right here. Isn't that nice? I just wish there was a way to kind of ghost or make a different color out of the wires that are on the other side of the head. But this is actually a free model, so you can download it in I think, and upload it and bring it into just about any drawing, just about any kind of 3D modeling program you want. I think, like Blender or Maya or something. But yeah, this is we're gonna come back to this guy. That'll be super useful. In fact, I'm gonna actually bring up a profile view of him and have it off to the side, off camera for me. But yeah, here we go. I'm gonna copy paste the Sketchfab collection I have. There we go. So now you can dig through that and use that as a tool. Some really nice tools in there too. One of them is actually by somebody at my old college too. Oops. Didn't want that. Alright, so Alright, so the first thing we're going to start with when we do a profile head is we're going to start with a Loomis head, basically. Maybe not do a full Loomis head, but like kind of follow the same idea, same basic idea of the Loomis head. Start with a sphere, kind of figure out where the halfway line is, about somewhere around here where the halfway point through the side of the head is, like that. Kind of connect it up to the, we're not really too worried about the neck anatomy, but I'm just going to include this kind of C-curve neck here. So the next thing we want is, want to create a side plane on the head, just about. And then we want to kind of figure out where, about generally where the brow is, somewhere around here, on the top of the head. Of course, I'm going to push this back a little bit because I know the features are going to be out a little bit further than a Loomis head measures. So you get this kind of thing. I'm going to bend that outwards a bit, maybe. Get this kind of side plane. I may be drawing more lines than I should here. But anyway, so the next thing you do, what do? You check your thirds. 1, 2, 3. Measure about from the hairline to the brow line to bottom of the nose to bottom of the chin. And there's your general proportion head for a Loomis head or whatever. And that's our starting point, basically. Except you might want to do them less messy than I did. But in any case, now we can maybe start like with the eye socket and the nose a bit. So we're going to do kind of this like, sort of sunglasses effect. And if you notice, I'm checking my cheat sheet of Loomis, excuse me, of Riley method rhythms, and I'm kind of like trying to figure out where I would go from here to here to here right now. And I'm going to be doing that throughout the whole thing. I'm going to be finding areas that I think would be good to go to next, and relate. Riley method is all about like figuring out what relates to what, and it's a rhythmical system that like when you start at one area, you can kind of gradually work your way out to another area and rhythmically combine them. Like like I said, it's a roadmap. Like no matter where you are in doing the head, you can use what you've drawn as a measuring point to either make fixes or figure out what to draw next or where to go next. So I'll try to talk through some of what I'm doing here, but I'm looking at my cheat sheet and trying to kind of feel out where to go next. I'm kind of exploring, basically. I can kind of get into Bob Ross headspace doing this stuff. Like, you don't have to be perfect with this. You can just play with it. You can just see what works. Like, you don't have to be really strict with it. The point of doing this is to just get comfortable using it over and over again. Eventually, as you do more of these, they'll start to get cleaner, and you kind of want to push yourself to do like cleaner ones of these, and do them based on like photographs, do them based off people in real life, sit down for longer drawings and stuff and get really nitty-gritty. But when you're just starting to kind of get into it, you can play with it. I would suggest slowing down at first to kind of, you know, acquaint yourself with this stuff and do it in slow, and like kind of acquaint yourself in slow motion with this stuff. And one thing I would definitely suggest is after you've kind of placed the socket area like I did, then you kind of want to figure out where the orbit of the eye is. And keep it pretty simple. So you're not going to worry about the features until later, or the eyes at least. You notice I had no problem doing these features because I kind of felt like it would be good to do them right now. But a lot of times it's a good idea to hold off on the features and work on the other rhythms first. But this is basically a quick sketch study, like very short study of Riley method head. And the more of these you do, the more comfortable you get with it. You shouldn't be intimidated by this. And if you feel like you're kind of, oh, I'm not really feeling it in this or that, you can go back, do some Loomis heads for a little bit, kind of like this. Just do a few of these. Because these are simpler to understand, and you can kind of use them as an orienting tool for yourself. Just do a few of those. And then when you're feeling comfortable again, you can go back to the Loomis head and start. Maybe put a few, you don't have to put a lot of Riley method rhythms on it, you just put a few. Maybe some of the problem areas you're trying to work out. And they don't even have to be accurate. Like, you just kind of get the idea of them. Like, this is me just kind of, kind of shorthanding what I remember from what I've been practicing by observation from the Riley method heads. It's okay to play with this. Like, you can play with this and have fun with it, and you can bounce back and forth between more careful memorization and study, and just playing with it. Because like, this should be a tool that you can freely use to create any kind of characters you want, any kind of portraits you're doing of people with different face types. And this is also a foundational thing that will help you when you get, this is a foundational concept that will help you when you get to drawing like the rest of the figure, or when you get to draw animals or trees or vehicles or whatever. Like, you can play with this stuff. You should be able to freely play with it and be flexible with it and have fun with it. And when you're trying to understand this stuff, you don't have to be like anal retentively accurate with it. You kind of learn how to build it bit by bit. Like, you get some things right and some things wrong every time you try one of these. The goal is to just like keep trying again and again. Like, it's like you're teaching yourself how to juggle. You get a little bit better at juggling every time, So this is feeling pretty good. Let's maybe add a little bit more. You want to maybe get some more of the side plane of the head here. Let's maybe construct some more of the eyeball. I'm also referencing the cheat sheet I have near me. So I'm doing a semi-copy study right now from the cheat sheet, but I am kind of trying to put some of my own understanding that I have acquired so far into this. And I kind of jumped off from that in order to do this little really quick sketch of kind of a guy with a long face. So you can bounce back and forth like that and just get comfortable with it. And if you're and like I said, if you're having trouble, you can always reorient yourself by going back to some of the other stuff we studied. But the other stuff we studied, if you've done it up till now, will also help you. And also, if you haven't done that stuff, feel free to dip your toes into this. You can actually literally start with just the Riley method to begin with. I mean, it'll help you if you have the Loomis head to start with. But as long as you understand like the basics of like measuring from like about the peak of the brow here to find the thirds of the face, like so, like you should be able to orient yourself. Just remember that the eye line is about like halfway through the whole of the head from top to bottom, but the thirds of the face, like to the brow is about above the ear line here. That third. The bottom of the ear is about where the bottom of the nose is, and so on. Like, your basic Loomis head is, for those who haven't seen Loomis heads before, who are new here, I'm drawing it in blue right now. It's a sphere with the sides chopped off of it, with kind of this crisscross pattern in it, like so. And this crisscross pattern helps you find the top of the head and wraps over here to find the brow, basically. You can also measure out the back of the skull to find the angle of the jaw like that, and then you use the side of this chopped off spear to find a corner of the jaw, and you can drop this kind of S-curve off the front of the face like that. You can add this like a C-curve neck. And there's kind of a basic Loomis head. Oh, I didn't add the ear. You can add this for the ear, like that. And then from there you can add a nose. You can add a cylinder for the teeth, like a bulge out there for the teeth. Using the planes that we've kind of been studying, you can add the plane of the brow here. It's kind of this like wraparound sunglasses sort of effect going on there with the eye socket. You can also add the cheek. Like so. Yeah, I mean, your basic Loomis head, you can just start with the spear with the sides chopped off and stuff, and you can use that as a starting point for the Riley method. You can refer to my earlier recorded sessions of this class to learn more about the Loomis head if you're not familiar with it. But anyway, so I'm pretty happy with this study of the Riley head, so maybe we'll move on to the 3/4. Here's an earlier one I actually did right here. A little bit wonky here and there. Still kind of getting used to things with this. I actually did like an original version of it that was really wonky, and I tried to do a better one on top of this. So let's try a new one. So, let me actually get some reference on here of maybe a 3/4 head if I can. Preferably one from the angle that I'm looking for. Maybe there's a way to flip these if it's not the right angle. I do see some 3/4. Oh, that one's pretty good, I think. Yeah. We'll do this. That guy on the right is the main one. But, just as a reference point, like, I'm not going to be actually copying him, but I just want people to kind of get mentally oriented about where that head is. Alright, so the first thing I need to do for a 3/4 study is I just need to like kind of go with what I kind of feel out and understand a bit about by the head, like with just feeling out kind of a Loomis head, basically. Also, I want to mention that the primary cheat sheet that I'm using is Watts Atelier of the Arts' online drawing program, which I strongly recommend enrolling in. I still have their PDF workbooks from when I enrolled in them years ago. They have a drawing membership subscription of, it's pretty pricey, $99 a month, but it's worth it for the drawing access, I would say. If you can dig through and get a hold of their PDFs and check out their videos and their curriculum. Yeah, you see they have their version of like Riley method kind of stuff there. Also, they are going to be doing some online classes pretty soon, and they're extremely worth it. They normally do like 12 weeks semesters, I think, and it's 5 weeks this time, where $210 per class, with like some special deals if you take 6 classes or whatever. I would strongly recommend these guys, even for beginners. these guys are fantastic trainers of like beginners, intermediates, and pros. They've taught tons of people, including myself. When I first learned how to draw from them, I'm actually trying to walk back through and restudy the things they taught to me. That's what I'm kind of trying to accomplish through these classes that I'm teaching here. I'm trying to regurgitate what they taught me as best I can. But I strongly recommend these guys. There's also audit classes that are like $50 of these, but the full participation classes are $210. I strongly recommend that, and their classes start on August the 3rd, I believe. So, alright, now let's get this 3/4 head going. So same deal as before, like I'm going to be using this kind of extruded tool right here to kind of basically feel out about where like the brow line is and the thirds of the face and so on. So I can have it like in the ballpark. I'm not too concerned about perfection, but I want to keep it fairly decently proportioned. Maybe just erase a little bit of that so it doesn't get too confusing for me. Alright, so I'm going to maybe start with this big circle here. It's about at the hairline. It goes down a little bit under the brow, kind of. And because of that, I can now kind of add this here. Sort of building off what I've studied in the skull. How the skull is kind of this weird ice cream sandwich block of tofu kind of thing with like rounded sides to it. And then I'm going to maybe, let's see, we should find the eye line. Probably about here, I'd say. Keep it at the same angle as the rest of the face. Just make sure everything is going at the correct angle. Here. Just making little indications for myself of stuff at the proper angle so I don't get features getting all skewed. And let's see here, maybe I'll start with this next. This little ball for the chin down there. And then I can use that to maybe feel out this rhythm that's going down from the ear here. And then I can use that to kind of feel out this rhythm that's going to be going to the corner of the mouth through the side of the face, like about maybe here, I want to say. I'm going to try finding the muzzle of the face, build off the second part of the muzzle. That comes up about to where the eye line is. Then I loop this rhythm back down. Maybe push this rhythm forward a bit. Let's erase that back there. And now I want to construct more of the brow right here. So I got this going like that, I got that rhythm going like this, and that goes all the way down to the side of the jaw, about here-ish, I would say. think this head might be getting a little warped, but it's okay. You can fix it. And let's get like the brow bulging out a little bit here. And then from the bottom of the nose, I'll use that in conjunction with the brow here to create the bottom plane of the nose here. The other side of the nose. Then I want to get some of the cheek in there. That can flow along the rhythm of the nose. Connect the cheek there to the side muzzle, emphasize that a little more. Get some clarity in those corners of the mouth. You're following the same angle as the other stuff. So I'm doing a very slightly different angle from my cheat sheet too. And then as long as I maintain like this direction that I'm going here, I should be okay. Yeah, I'm going to be supplying people with Riley Method cheat sheets after this, similar to what I'm using right now. I do recommend signing up for the Watts Atelier program in the future if you get the chance, either through their taught classes or through the through their online curriculum, because that is the primary resource that I'm using to study from right now. Their workbooks mainly is what I'm using right now, and also some Steve Houston and Loomis stuff. I've started looking at Michael Hampton and Gottfried Bomis again recently, and I'm going to maybe try to get more of them into next semester. Okay, let's see. I think I want to push this rhythm. So when you get a rhythm that is kind of off, the cool thing about this method is it's fairly easy to erase. It's even easier in non-digital to erase these rhythm lines too, with like a kneaded eraser on your drawing pad. And if you get more proficient with it than I'm demonstrating right now, you can draw like much simpler lines than I'm doing. It becomes even easier to deal with this stuff, and it gets less messy. But you keep doing these, and you keep trying to get cleaner with them every time you do them. So the more of these I do, the more confident I'm going to get in them, and the fewer lines you will generally see. So I'm going to maybe try to construct this eye a little bit. Oh, I didn't add this in yet. This is really important. That plays off the side plane of the head here, like so. So I tried last week to run basically some head drawing workshop stuff. I was only able to get to one in the middle of the week because I'm trying to figure out how to juggle my priorities right now with teaching these classes and working on personal work. This is the start of week 5 that we're on right now, by the way. So, oof, I messed up some stuff here. I'm gonna fix it though. Like, I think the mouth is a little bit slid to the right. So we'll erase that. Let's pull back and evaluate what I need to do to fix. So about like this. Let's maybe get this to loop more around like right here. Push that up maybe a bit. Let's make sure that the angle is right. But yeah, when you notice mistakes, and they're pretty major, and you think you know what to do to fix them, erase part of it that you think you can fix, and do it again. Or if you complete a drawing and you don't notice the mistakes until the end, or if you're pretty far into it, you can just lower opacity, or if you're doing this traditionally, use tracing paper and draw over it again. Like I'm planning, this is kind of what I did with like this. Like I did a cleaner version of it with a lower opacity, drawing over top of it again. Because like I worked through all like the guts of this without confidence first, and then I did a cleaner version drawing on top of my own work. And you can keep doing that until you can pull off stuff that's reasonably clean and confident without having to necessarily do that. But I mean, you can also like draw really, really light, get things wrong, and then draw really, really dark to touch it up, or darker, not so dark that you can't erase it. But if you notice, like the stuff I showed earlier, those Riley method heads were like, had very few lines and were pretty clear. That's what happens after you get really in tune with this method. Like, busting out those heads becomes very second nature. But you kind of have to walk through it quite a few times before it starts to really sink in and you start feeling confident with it. Fortunately, this method is really fun to do. Like it feels, when you get in, even when you're like getting stuff off in this method, it feels good to use this method. And it's supposed to be like that. This is a learning tool and a construction tool that can help you see stuff and figure things out in a way that is like fun and engaging and easy to understand, relatively speaking to how complex the face is. Like what I'm doing is actually like a lot less complex than it looks once you start getting more into it. It's just like this, okay, this makes sense because it plays off of this. Oh, this makes sense because it plays off of this. Oh, this is off because this is off, and so on. It's a GPS guide. And you start seeing how they work, how it works, the more you refer to it and practice utilizing it. I think we're a good ways along with this 3/4 demo here. Let me just check to see if there's any major errors that I can identify. I mean, I know I made mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes, even the pros will make mistakes at this method, or any method really. And you should try to not worry about that too much. Just go with it. Just like try it and do it again, try again, and try to see if you can have fun with it. Like maybe after you get a bunch of these out, you can try maybe seeing what happens if you distort them into creature faces, like warping parts of the Riley method heads, or using them to understand creatures or animals or other things. I might find some kind of an opportunity in the future to get into Riley methods for creatures and stuff, but this is the foundational thing. I think the ellipse are a little low, but whatever. We're going to move on from that one to a front view head. find a good front view head. Maybe maybe we'll meditate on Bruce Willis here. The first time you do this method, it's going to be pretty tricky. And also, like, I'm drawing way more sketchy than you probably should. I'm not a professional art instructor. I'm a professional animator who's trying to get his head back in the game with drawing. And these classes are my glorified. You all are part of my study group, basically. I'm a study group lead, and we're trying to break down stuff that we understand. Oh, yeah, we're doing this straight on. Okay. You all are my study partners, basically. And I'm a glorified study group lead. I'm trying to learn this along with you. So I'm trying to share what I know about this and what I'm studying with this. But I'm not doing it by any means as good as like a good art instructor would. That's why I pointed like in the direction of people way better than me who are teaching and teaching this method, among other things. And you can learn this tremendous amount from them. And I hope that I can be the person that like helped you dip your toes in how they teach before you decided to take the plunge with them or something. Or, like, if you are enrolled in an art school or something like that, you can just come to these classes to kind of get some ideas of like cross-training or side training that you can do to kind of vibe with and refresh your knowledge or whatever. That's kind of what the Ethan Becker Discord community that we've built is about. These classes are supposed to be ways for the instructors to improve their own skills and also share knowledge with other people. Like, a lot of us want to eventually be professional teachers. Like, I know I definitely want to be. After I get really good, I will want to start, like, charging money for classes and stuff. But I'm not to that point yet. So now you get to see me when I'm struggling and I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to teach. And I'm still learning. I'm still, like, learning and relearning my fundamentals. My personal goal is to actually enroll in several art classes of my own when I get more of a budget together for that. But I'm having a huge blast teaching these classes for everyone. I really love seeing, I've seen people physically improving since they started taking these, and it's really cool to see. I know I've improved. I've got a long more ways to go, and I've got some goals in mind. I'm going to be working on restructuring my classes so I can meet some personal goals next quote-unquote semester. I want to push things more in the direction of getting more animation done. Like more like really like challenging myself type animation. And getting people to vibe with doing that. Like, I am a big fan of Sakuga and WebGen animation. And also I want to do more acting and dialogue-driven animation stuff. So I'll be getting into a lot more of that next semester. This is week 5. We're going to be on week 6 the week after, and week 6 will be the last week of this first semester of classes. And I'm going to be planning what I'm going to be doing for the next semester. I'm going to put way more of an emphasis. I'm probably going to be repeating some of what I've been doing in head drawing, but I'm going to be having much more of an emphasis on people coming in to draw together. Because a lot of people who will be coming back are people who are actually familiar with these methods from the first time they sat in these, and people can also refer back to the videos I recorded previously. So I want to maybe push things in more of a direction of getting people to use these times as a time to get an art workout in. I'll probably run photographs on screen or something that people can draw to. And that's one idea of how I might do this. I want to do way more study of existing animation in future semesters. I've already had a huge blast. Like one time we had a study vibing group where we were like talking with each other and breaking down some Sakuga animation from the Yu Yu Hakusho series. That was a huge blast. I'd love to do that for like other series and contemporary series and even Disney animation and stuff, like breaking down and trying to analyze what's going on there, copy it, draw it, freeze frame and pause it live, and study and analyze and think about this stuff with people, and maybe kind of start planning of how we could integrate some of the ideas that are in that the animation that we're studying into our own work. Yeah, do lots of these. Do them on multiple days of the week, like every day of the week if you can. Do a bunch of these and just have fun with it and enjoy it. Be confident in it. This is an excellent tool and an excellent method. And the more you dig into it, the bit by bit you'll start to understand it better, and you also will start to understand how to break down existing heads using these rhythms. That's why we're going to be using photographs, and that's why I'm going to be, for the homework, we're going to be using photographs. We're going to be pushing you guys to try sketching with us. Try doing quick sketches using Riley method heads that you aren't necessarily like working on every single Riley method rhythm on. Just have fun trying to playing with an abbreviated shorthand using these ideas. And then, in addition to that, we'll have you doing the more meticulous turnaround type stuff that I'm doing here. And of course, you can go above and beyond what I'm suggesting people do this week. Like you can do crazy things on your own. If you want to, optionally, you could try like taking animals, creatures, character designs, and other things that you think you might be able to put Riley method rhythms into, like like Belle from Sleeping Beauty 2, who has a Riley method style breakdown of how she works for Beauty and the Beast 2. Like stuff like that, you could definitely pull from for cross training in Riley method in application to animation character design. Oops, something wrong with this guy's head. It is too small, too short. It's getting kind of a Frankenstein effect going on there. Let's see if that helps it. Let's pull back from this guy. What else is looking off to me? The head's proportion is looking better, but I'm not sure about the angle. Like this. Close enough. Maybe if I bow it out a bit like this, it might feel better. Just want something that feels good, even if it's not completely accurate to the cheat sheet I'm using. And yeah, those Sketchfab tools will be excellent cheat sheets. You could use them for your quick sketch. Like spin around one of the Riley method heads, Riley method model heads that are on there. Try drawing it from different angles. Or use it as a cheat sheet from when you got a photograph and you're trying to understand how would the Riley method head work on this angle. Well, you can find that out using one of those little 3D models. And you can do that with the Loomis and the Asaro head and stuff too. Feel free to take a look at the Asaro head, the complex Asaro head that's included in the Sketchfab collection that I have. Let's see, what time is it? It's getting pretty up there, isn't it? I would actually like to start answering questions now that I'm gotten through like the main part of the demo. Maybe I can like answer questions while vibing with some Riley method quick sketch. Oh, the eyes are looking a little derpy. Ooh. Yeah, eyes are looking a little derpy. Just scoot them a bit. Yeah. Overall the construction is good, but I can just make like little adjustments. Like you can move stuff around as if they're like parts of a 3D model. Like erase them and move them around a bit if something's looking off. But yeah, I mean, like as a starting point, like I could do basically what I did here, which I lowered opacity on and did a better version of it on top. You do the same thing with this and fix those errors. But that's a successful study, I would say, overall. Like, I mean, I got something out of doing that, and then I can just do another one and another one. Or I could just vibe with some more heads like the ones down below. So I'm going to take a look at chat for questions, and I'm going to maybe put on some more reference up top here so people can kind of use a roadmap for the Riley method from one of these images. Let's see here. Actually, no, I got an idea. I know what I'm going to do. Here. I'm going to use the gesture drawing app with the folder that I just exported. That'll be perfect. Let's put that on maybe 5 minutes. That sounds good. And let's see here. There you go, Riley method folder loaded in there. There we go. Now we just let that cycle through. Yeah, someone asked what the homework is. Let me type that up real quick for you. Google Photos. And then you can refer to it. Or Google Docs. There's going to be some optional stuff, which you can mess with. You can mess with cartoon characters and stuff like that. So here. So I'll put it on screen after I finish typing the homework. Head drawing. Well, actually, I'll put it on screen right now. Okay, so 1 to 3 pages. Oh, 3 poses. Head turn around of Riley method head. Profile, 3/4. Front. Do this exercise several times to try to get better heads each time. Two. As you start getting comfortable with using the Riley rhythms in slower drawing, try drawing a bunch of circles on a page or Loomis heads on a page, and then inventing or referencing photos, characters, etc. to create quick abbreviated sketches using parts of the Riley method. You should be free to play with this and have fun with it. 1 to 3 pages. Riley method draw over. Use well-lit, non-distorted photographs of people's heads. I suggest vintage Hollywood glamour shots from like the 1940s that you draw on top of and create Riley abstractions on. Pages. I can be 1 to 2 drawings per page. Take time with this one and slow it down. Alright, so no, optional. Use model sheets like Belle from Beauty and the Beast 2 or characters from more anatomically based animated films like Akira or Satoshi Kon's work. And like Katsu. Use them to also study from. You can also use animals, creatures, and other things you think you might be able to play with finding Riley rhythms in. Try to have fun with this. You are not going for perfection. You are trying to play with this. You will get more efficient and confident with it the more you play with it and keep trying to do different stuff with it. There we go. How's that? Let's maybe zoom that in or beef that up. There you go, folks. That's the homework. Just screenshot that real quick. And then we'll chill out for the next half hour or so. And then the class will be over. We'll chill out and do some head drawing together. Let's say here. Let's see. So I'm going to post the homework in classroom chat. So I'm going to do like a kind of a demo of Riley Method Quick Sketch right now. Let's start grabbing sources of things to use. I've got some things around me physically where I'm at right now that I can use, but we'll maybe grab a few things from the internet. Like that Belle, yeah, we could grab animated characters that have more. realistic heads and whatnot. So maybe let's try to fill up this page with Riley Method quick sketch heads on these circles. I'll try to see how many circles I can get in. I'm not really caring about racing myself, but I don't know. Let's see here. Maybe I'll try to keep them short if I can, like 1 minute, 2 minute, something like that. As long as as long as I'm exercising some of the Riley rhythms in each of them. I'm not going to time myself though. So let's move that up there. There we go. So I'm only going to integrate some of the Riley Method rhythms. I'm not necessarily going to walk through all of them. I just want to, and I'm not even going to be that concerned with this getting really super inaccurate or stuff like that. The point of this is just kind of exercise my memory of it and to play with it. The Riley Method is a tool. You can slow down and be more meticulous with it, or you can use it to quickly do shorthand abbreviated heads. You could do this, what I'm doing right now, in a quick sketch class. I literally just invented this head from scratch right now. Just kind of using some of the rhythms that I've just been practicing, that I've internalized. And then I might glance over at my cheat sheet again and get some ideas of rhythms to add. This will also help you memorize the Riley Method head, because you can try to add in little bits of chunks and stuff that you remember that you kind of struggled with when you did the slower drawings, which is what I'm doing right now. Then you can zero in on it more and add more to it. But I'm going to try to keep these short. Maybe I'm going to darken in the bottom of the lip. Here you darken in the underside of the eye socket here, kind of. Bottom of the nose, and maybe the bottom of the neck, just to make it stand out. And now we're going to move on. So this next guy, let's maybe I'm going to invent most of these, but I do have some cheat sheet stuff for the rhythms I'm using next to me. So you can invent, if you feel comfortable, try inventing using Riley Method. You can also abbreviate what you're doing with these. If you notice, I know kind of what the planes of the head are a little bit from the basis of the circle, so I'm just kind of massing in this kind of skull shape using these circular planes. And there's not any, I studied the rhythms and stuff, but I'm not trying to be accurate to them right now. I'm just trying to have fun and cut loose. This is Bob Ross painting Happy Trees mentality right now. After you kind of get it internalized a bit, you can play with it. You don't have to be self-conscious about it. You can just kind of go with it. And this is what it should be like. You'll be using this as a sketching tool to freely sketch things. And you'll be using this as a long drawing tool when you want to sit down and really zero in on stuff. And because you had so much fun playing with this method, it becomes so much second nature when you actually do sit down to do a really, really carefully, meticulously planned out head drawing, or an animated character you need to get on model that uses Riley rhythms or something. It's a really flexible tool, and you can combine it or ideas from it with other things, you can combine this with Glenville Pooh or Steve Houston or whoever you want, or with Disney, with the way Disney draws stuff, or the way that Japanese animators draw stuff. It's interesting to see how you can cross-train and combine this stuff, and I'm really excited and looking forward to it as I digest and practice more of this stuff. with experimenting with combining approaches as I start to get more of this stuff under my belt. So I'm not going to be too worried about that guy going too much. I'll add like maybe a C-curve neck there a little bit. Alright, so maybe let's try, I did a couple 3/4 here and up and down. That guy's kind of warpy now that I think about it. So maybe let's do a little bit of this. You can come back and correct things that you jammed out if you're kind of seeing things a little bit differently the second time you look at them. Let's do like a profile one here. And again, I'm playing fast and loose with this. Like I'm not too concerned about accuracy right now because I want to do this in like a couple minutes at most. I just want to play with these rhythms that I'm starting to learn and play with. But in my case, I'm relearning these because I've already studied these before, but I haven't practiced them in ages. So this is like becoming acquainted with an old friend for me. Things are going to be a little awkward at first, but I'm starting to feel it again because this is a method I used to use a lot when I was in figure drawing class for like long poses and quick sketches and stuff. And eventually it's going to come back to me. I'm going to get back up to where I used to be when I was way more in tune. And that's just a matter of practice and restudying stuff and actually studying it better than I used to this time. I'm trying to study it more effectively than I used to. And you guys who are attending these classes are going to be along that journey with me. I'm trying to learn this stuff, and I hope you guys get inspired to dig into this stuff yourselves and take your own initiative about your own art study habits and your own art study training. You can vibe with me, and I can point you in the direction of teachers who can teach you better than I can, and we can all learn and improve together. Yeah, that one is pretty okay. Maybe let's add some more of the cheek or something like that. Cheek rhythms. Not like that though. Okay. Maybe add in a little bit of darkening here, maybe there, to make like parts of the face read a little bit more. Alright, so let's do, I don't know if I want to do straight on for the, well, yeah, let's do straight on. Fuck it. I mean, the point of this is just to have fun. Doesn't matter if this, straight-ons are tough to draw because they have to be really symmetrical, but we're just having fun with this, so we don't care too much if this isn't perfect. And feel free to like try this yourself if you just want to like maybe like use, you don't even have to use too much of the rhythms, just maybe like try doing the limbs heads you're familiar with and then adding some of the rhythms that you think are kind of interesting, like that tooth muzzle right there with the double circle, for example. That helps you kind of think of the mouth as like this kind of thing that's bulging off the face with the sides of the muscles that manipulate the mouth a little bit. You can add that in, or you could do that big circle in the front of the plane of the face there, which helps you find where the eye sockets are right there. And you can play the brow off it like that, the curve of the brow. You want to play with this. This method is a friend of yours. You want to become acquainted with your new friend and have fun with them and get to know them. You'll be approaching this from a very kind of, you should definitely approach this from kind of a very like Bob Rossy mindset. Like, you don't have to be scared of this method at all. It's a friendly, fun method that when you get into it and you get to know it better, is familiar and starts to be something that you can use to play with. Somebody did an attempt at an alien face in there. Let me just try to see if I can do something like that myself, actually. Let's try. So I'm not going to give this alien ears, but I'll still measure where the ears would be. Let's maybe elongate the face way past human proportions a bit. It still has sockets that work about the same, and a brow that works about the same. Let's give him multiple irises just for the heck of it. Maybe his nostrils are on the sides of this. Kind of like a reptile. But he still has the principle of the tooth muzzle, even though his proportions are kind of weird. And still has cheekbones. So all this is just a plane with a warped human head. And I decided that he has perspective on him that's going like, well, here, let's see here. Perspective on this side is going like this. That, and the perspective on this side is going like something like that would be the horizon line-ish. Also, I have in one of my storyboarding classes I teach about perspective, and that is a crash course in perspective for not just storyboard artists but anything. So you can learn more about what I'm doing here with this horizon line here and these little vanishing points on either side where I'm making a 2 points perspective drawing, basically. I'm just doing a quick one. This is an opportunity for me to play with rules of perspective a little bit. As just a quick abbreviated sketch. Let's maybe add bottom of what would be a nose there. That's kind of a bump. Not terribly creative alien, but I just wanted to play with distorting the head. Remember, if you're losing your way on figuring out the proportions, you can always measure them out. Like, I'm a fan of pulling a 3D kind of grid off the face like this, but you can line it up on the side too. But I'm a fan of doing this because it helps me wrap my head around the 3D shape of the head a little easier. Like in the case of this, so I know how those circles work in the different planes of the head, so I'm feeling pretty confident about just diving right in with this and just having fun with an abbreviated Riley method head. So you get the top of the ear about here, and then I can zoop, do that rhythm on the corner of the jaw right there. You should be able to be free and have fun with this. You can employ all the other stuff we've been practicing throughout these last few weeks. Go back and refer to those old videos that are on my YouTube. You can find the link to my YouTube in my profile on Discord. Like the stuff we did in the skull, the Loomis heads will help you get started with this. But you can jump right into this too. It's totally fine. You just might want to like walk through like the first step of what amounts to like basically a kind of a Loomis-y head first several times. I want to push out the features a little bit on this thing. You can play with adding features to these quick sketch heads if you like. We're not really going to cover features beyond like what's in the Riley method head, but for this semester or whatever. But you can feel free to, maybe if you have other drawing books that talk more about how to construct the features. Riley method is basically a method for, among other things, orienting yourself with the correct placement of the features. If you notice, like, this eye is kind of incorrectly placed, but that's okay. This is a quick sketch. Doesn't have to be accurate. I'm trying to get information out and test and prod bits of my knowledge and play with it. And just do it in a few minute span. So maybe shade the side of this, and then I'm going to move on from this one. And you want to fill up like page after page of stuff like this. Not just invented heads, but also heads that that you have reference for. Either existing Riley method heads or photos or whatever. The goal should be to draw, 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 and enjoy it. Not be intimidated, not worry about getting it wrong or not being perfect. Like, you should kind of think of this almost as like jamming on the guitar in order to get better with chords and stuff. Or going to the skate park and just having fun skating and messing around and stuff. Without injuring yourself, of course, but just enjoying it, enjoying the process, trying it from different angles and so on. Try approaching the process from different angles. I mean, you can also, I also mean draw the head from different angles too, but like you can have a cheat sheet, a few cheat sheets that the Riley method had, and you can glance over them. I'm doing that right now to maybe get a little bit more of grounding of the Riley method while I'm doing these. Like I don't really care too much about making these heads proportional right now, because I want to kind of see what happens if I warp them a little bit, like this guy with big jaw, for example. Let's try one with a small jaw, actually. Like a kind of a baby head going on here. I think there's a baby head. Yeah, there's a baby head in the reference sheet that I made. Like a child's head, kind of, or it's kind of an anime head in its proportions. But I just wanted to play with this and see what would happen if I tried distorting it a little bit. And you're free to do that with this. You should be. You're going to be using it for that kind of stuff when you create things. Or when you draw people different face types, or when you are doing characters. I'm gonna move on from that one. See how many more we got. How much time we got? We got about 15 minutes, I would say. Maybe do another straight on one. Try to get this one more proportionate. So got a halfway point there. Brow, I could guesstimate would be about there. And right now I'm not going to be too concerned with accurately replicating the Riley head, but I'm going to be checking the cheat sheet to kind of throw some of these in here. This is like a quick, fast and loose, like abbreviated review for me. Won't include all the rhythms, but it'll include some of the major ones. Let me move that to maybe one of the heads. That's a good page. I'll do that. No, hold on that one. Yeah, I want to find out who did this one, because this is a really good page right here. I found this online, the reference image that's up there. I think that was, I don't think that was Proco. But if someone can confirm where it came from, I'm going to try to find where it came from, so maybe I can grab more stuff to study from that artist. Yeah, let's just get like a rough, quick review for myself of the Riley head, and not really caring about how meticulous it is, because if I play with it fast and loose and energetic, I can get through each of the rhythms faster and remember them. For when I'm doing a slower version where I'm trying to be more like dead on with it. And another thing that this can help teach you is like what goes wrong. Like what can go wrong with these. I'm kind of learning that now with how big I made the eye sockets. Alright, I'm going to actually take a look at some questions, because we got about 10-12 more minutes or so. Got some warped looking heads here. At least this one was intentional. But I do seem to have I notice I have a habit of making the jaw too big, the jaw area too big versus the head. That's something that I want to work on. But yeah. Was a pretty productive practice session for me, in addition to conveying this information to you guys. So I want to see what you guys think. Can you explain the difference between gesture, proportion, and anatomy? And there's an argument in the Discord. Okay, I can break it down a little bit, but the first session of my figure drawing stuff, which is up on YouTube, I was going over how Steve Houston approaches the concept of gesture and structure. Gesture and structure should be integrated into each other. Like, gesture is the flow of something, and structure is the 3D shape of something. Gesture is like the underlying forces at work that make something. And if the gesture isn't working, then the whole thing falls apart. If the structure isn't working, then the whole thing falls apart. Proportion and anatomy. Proportion is, of course, like that actually does kind of relate a bit more to structure a bit, but proportion has to do with like how big things are in relation to other things. So it can mean like how big the head is versus how big the torso is in relation to each other. And then you can break that down further, like where are the anchor points of the rib cage and so on. Like that's maybe like a half a head distance. That's a head distance. This might be the torso might be 2 heads distance or something like that. You can use these measuring points to measure figures and features. In the case of the head, the reason I have people doing the Loomis head is because it's a really handy way of tracking proportions. Like, do another quick demo of that real fast. So we got that. There's a basic sphere with the side cut off of it facing us in profile here. Now we have a guideline that we can use to find the brow about here. We know where the top of the head is. Oh no, the hairline here. And we know where the brow line is. So now what we can do is we can extrude this, and we have our first third of the face. Then we just measure down. About there is the nose. Measure down again. About there is the jaw. And so this becomes a guideline for like a average simplified face. And then if you deviate from this for like a particular character or something like that, or a person that you're drawing whose facial proportions is not like this, you can either redesign them to be more like these proportions, or you can know what's happening there and play into it or play it up without having it look strange. But proportion helps you kind of see how things are sized or distanced or placed to each other in relation to other things in what you're drawing. And the Riley method is a combination of proportion, of like a way to measure proportion and to track the 3D rhythms of the face. But the reason why I have people start with the Loomis method is because you can use this as a grid, as like a roadmap system before you lay in the Riley method stuff. I mean, from here I can start laying in the Riley stuff. And so on. I'm actually going over what I remember for what I've been memorizing tonight, not the Riley method. And so on and so on. In the case of the face, proportions are very important for placing the features properly, and also getting the right ratio of the jaw to the head and so on. In the case of figure drawing, the head becomes your primary measuring tool for measuring the rest of the figure. This is why for my figure drawing class, essentially, I've had everyone focus on the head for the past few weeks, and for the rest of the semester. Next semester, we're going to be getting into more into the full figure, and people who've gone through this already will be able to use what they've studied so far about the head to measure the rest of the body. So that's proportion. That's a little bit of proportion. As for anatomy is its own rigorous study in and of itself. There's anchor points on the body that don't change, like on the rib cage, for example, depending on where you move around. But there's a lot of muscle tissue that does change, and there's bones that have like articulation and move them around and stuff, like the collarbone here. The shoulder area is ridiculously complicated. We will be getting more into anatomy in the future, but what you generally do with anatomy is you kind of want to understand a little bit of it, but you don't have to understand like a lot of it in order to get good figure drawing. What you need is just enough of it so you can understand a little bit about what's happening up there in front of you. But when you're just like laying in stuff, or you're trying to simplify or get your basic indication of a figure, like look at this very simple arm I did. Basically, I just did 2 parallel lines, and then I cut this little box kind of shape, and I put endpoints on them to create structure to these 2 kind of C curves for like the bicep and the forearm, and like the hand here. Break it down further, create the palm wedge, and so on. Start getting into the fingers, and etc., etc. So this doesn't really have too much anatomy in it, but there's like some of it implied in some of the choices I've made and how I've swept things and stuff. When you start getting more into anatomy, you will start understanding like where stuff inserts into things. Like I'm really out of practice at anatomy, but this is kind of an example. Like the deltoid here kind of inserts into the side here, where the bicep is, and there's like the tricep is back here, and you also want to know what the bone is in there, and so on and so forth. You can break that down into basic shapes too, and then further understand that. Anatomy is about understanding and injecting information into the model. So like there's a little bit of anatomical information in this, and we've studied a little bit of anatomical information in the studies of the skull we did previously. There's actually an example of that a little bit up on the screen on the upper right. Kind of weird looking skull, but that is a pretty okay study. But yeah. So like the Riley method and the other stuff we've been studying is dipping our toes a bit into anatomy without fully completely committing to it just yet, just enough to get us going. We can go more in depth into the actual anatomy of what's going on there, and we will in the future. Like when we get to features, for example, there's a whole lot of stuff about how the cheeks work and the muscles there and how all that stuff connects up, and like how the jaw is hinged by the side plane muscle that's connecting through here and under the jaw through there. There's all kinds of crazy stuff about how like the brow works and stuff. The mouth is ridiculously complex too, in the different shapes it can take on. But yeah, we will get into more of that next semester. For now though, like there's bits and pieces of anatomy you can touch on in your own studies and that are touched on in this. Eventually you will absorb like a mixture of gesture, structure, proportion, and anatomy that will create the blend of what becomes your mastery of the figure. That's my personal goal. I want to walk through all this. I'm going to be walking through gesture and structure again and again. I'm going to be walking through proportion again and again. I'm going to be walking through anatomy, deeper into anatomy when we get into that. And when we get into that, we can get pretty nerdy. We can nerd out into that. And it'll be really fun to do that. Because we'll be breaking down these really complex things into simplified mechanical shapes to understand how they work. And that's really fun to do. But yeah, so we have that to look forward to, and we aren't going to be intimidated by that by the time we get to that, because what have we done up to that point? We will have studied and practiced utilizing gesture drawing combined with simplified geometric shapes, and having lots of experience with those building blocks. It just becomes like human Legos in a way, to try to understand how the figure works. There are parts of the figure, when you get more into anatomy, that get really frustrating, by the way. Hands, feet, heads, deltoids, and a few other parts that hips sometimes, hips and thighs. That area gets really problematic for people. But when we break them down and we concentrate on studying them piece by piece, you'll be able to start absorbing that information and concentrate, giving each section the attention it deserves to fully absorb. And we'll get into that in future semesters. I don't know how deep we're going to get into anatomy stuff next semester just yet, but we will touch more on it. We're going to have to when we get into features for the face. And I'm also going to be trying to see what I'm going to do for full figure stuff, because I think that most of the people who've taken this up to this point will have enough of an understanding of the proportions of the head to measure the figure. And also more advanced people who understand that stuff would be able to participate a little bit more. Not to dissuade people who are beginners from attending those, by the way. It can be an opportunity for you to try to practice measuring the body from the head with very simplified Loomis heads or something. But yeah, I'm going to give one last plug for my Ko-fi and my coffee tip jar, which is this page here. Like I said, I'm working towards an Adobe Creative Cloud prepaid subscription goal as my current goal, so I can start using that software and doing Photoshop demos. I love Clip Studio Paint, but there is some stuff I want to learn and use in Photoshop. And I also want to get back to Adobe Animate, Adobe Flash, and the other stuff that I want to use. So that's going to be my next personal goal to save up for. And every little bit will help. In addition to that, if you have a Twitch Prime subscription or you want a gift sub or anything like that, that will also help. Every little bit helps. So thank you all for coming so much. I'm going to switch it over to our end credits. And then we'll be done. You will be all free. It is also Flan Week or Pudding Week. So if you want to show solidarity, put a pudding at the end of your name, in your username in our Discord. So anyway, congratulations everyone. You did it. You sat through one of my tedious head drawing demos. Feel good about yourself.
Congratulations.